Ladies and gentlemen, innovators, disruptors, and all you creators in this room, welcome and welcome to you, the leaders of our future. Misk Talk is so excited to have you with us today. All of you here in this room are going to determine which direction this rapidly changing world is heading. It's your ideas, it's your achievements, it's your creativity, and it is your dreams that are going to shape the future for all of us to have a better tomorrow. Misk is a philanthropic foundation set up by His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. It really seeks to develop young Saudis and provide them with some fantastic opportunities to survive and to thrive in a hyper-connected world. Misk promotes the disciplines of education, tech, science, arts, culture, and the creative digital media space. And it really does give all of you an avenue to plug in to the global grid. It's so fantastic for me and all of us here to meet here in Houston. I haven't been here in a while, actually, and the last 48 hours reminded me why. Because of the weather. And I asked someone about this, and they said, listen, Zane, just relax, because if you don't like the weather in Houston, just wait 5 minutes. And that was true. So today, we're going to hear your stories from your experiences, from the young people here in this room, from Saudi Arabia, as well as the United States. It is these youths who are our future leaders that will demonstrate their positivity, their optimism, and their commitment to shaping a brighter future for a pretty troubled world. So before I introduce our first speaker, I'd like to share a little bit more about Misk in this video. Please watch.
هم الطاقة الحقيقية والقوة الحقيقية لتحقيق هذه الرؤية، وهي أهم ميزة بالنسبة لدى السعودية هي الطاقة الشبابية اللي فيها، والميزة الجيدة أنهم شباب واعي قوي لديه طموح رائع مثقف متعلم بشكل جيد مبدع لديه قيم عالية. باقي فقط نضع الرؤية ونعمل عليها.
Empowering young people leads to a stronger future. But how do we support young people so that they thrive in this rapidly changing world? How do we equip them with the knowledge and skills they need to create a modern, sustainable economy? Our foundation, Misk, was established by His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz in 2011 to discover, develop, and empower young people to overcome the challenges of today and contribute to the advancement of tomorrow. We focus on 4 areas. In education, we help young people move from learning to earning. In technology and science, we establish tech accelerators and incubators. In arts and culture, we showcase and promote the work of talented artists. In media, we support the creation of innovative content and inspire our audiences. We know that these opportunities have no boundaries and cannot be achieved alone. So, we collaborate with the world's leading organizations, universities, corporations, NGOs, and governments to provide new horizons for young people to thrive. In our first 6 years, through 100 events, programs, and initiatives, we have served over 1 million young people from more than 65 countries. This is just the start. We want you to join us on our journey as we work to invest in our greatest and most valuable asset, our young people.
Our very first speaker for this evening does not want you to be too comfortable in your own skin, too comfortable where you're sitting, the kind of perspectives you're sharing, and the kind of conversations you're having. It's just too comfortable. What would happen if you pushed yourself a little bit away and out of your own comfort zone? Our speaker did just that. He's an inventor. He's even got a patent out. His innovation is productive, it's relevant, and it's powerful. And it has addressed one of the most important environmental crises of our lifetime. Please offer a very warm welcome to Karan Jarath, founder and CEO, United Nations Young Leader, to talk about life outside your comfort. Welcome.
Good evening. Today, I would like to talk to you about the value of constantly putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and why you should embrace them when they occur. This story is best told if I start from the beginning. The story is best told if I start from the beginning. I grew up in the big, vibrant city of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In the 11 years that my family and I lived in KL, we loved it. We loved the fusion of cultures within the area, the sense of community offered from the international school that my sister and I attended, and the ease of being close to relatives living in nearby regions such as India and Dubai. It was a comfortable lifestyle. From a very early age, my parents instilled in me the mindset of what it meant to be a global citizen. Somebody who understands the necessity of being accustomed to a multitude of different cultures and is open-minded when it comes to diversifying perspectives. This has ultimately helped me shape the way in which I view the world around me. And while you can be taught to become a global citizen, there is nothing that truly prepares you for the difficulties of having to leave everything behind in order to start a new life in a foreign country. This was the case that I was in after having learnt that we would be moving to the United States for my father's new position. The move, while it made sense for educational purposes and from the standpoint of new opportunities, had me leave the only place I only ever knew. Regardless of if I was ready for change, it was happening, and the only option was to accept and embrace it. I'm sure some of you can resonate with this, having experienced this at some point in your lifetimes. I personally was not ready for change, and my actions clearly depicted this. Rather than welcoming the uncertainty and using it as an opportunity to take risks, learn from my mistakes, and develop personally, I fixated on the need of wanting to feel accepted and to fit in. This caused me to become reserved and self-conscious. During those first 3 years in the US, simply put, I followed the crowd. I fell into the trap of wanting to find that comfortable state that I was so used to having grown up in Malaysia, only to realize that it would add no long-term value to my career. It would not allow me to break out of my comfort zone, build confidence, and continue to diversify my perspectives. I never truly embraced this move and the situation that I was in because I shielded myself from the uncertainty. Looking back, I would consider myself as somebody who nobody would have imagined anything of. And this would have probably been the case going into high school as well, had it not been for one teacher who made a statement one day that impacted the trajectory of my life. "Don't be a nameless face in the hallway," she said. And at that moment, I realized that there were two options. One, you could go through life doing what everybody else is doing, only to realize one day that you have wasted your time and not utilized your true potential. Or two, you could actively try to set yourself apart from everybody else and create a lasting and impactful difference. To me, the latter seemed like the better option. This became the turning point in my life, and I began to make decisions only to see where the opportunity would take me, one of which was to join the Science Fair program. This is a picture of me at the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair in 2015, and what you can see is my Science Fair board and a 3D model of the device that I invented. The Intel competition is the world's largest pre-collegiate science fair competition. And I'm not going to pretend like I knew what I was doing getting myself into the Science Fair program early on, because quite honestly, I was blindly following it. But I can tell you why I continued to endure through the program, regardless of the hardships that I faced. I continued within the program because for the very first time in my life, I had volunteered to be challenged. It's a very different feeling. I had put myself out there in order to try to achieve the unimaginable through a project with no definite solution. In the 4 years that I participated in the program, I sacrificed weekends, vacations, and countless of hours in order to try to develop the solution without knowing where it would take me in the long run. Complete uncertainty. But the benefit to me was that throughout the process, I was growing, developing, and making an impact of some sort. The device, which I invented and patented this past November, was related to cleaning up oil spills in the marine environment. I was inspired by the Deepwater Horizon spill, which happened maybe an hour away from where we are right now in the Gulf of Mexico. If you're unfamiliar with this spill, it was a 3-month-long spill that dominated headlines in the Houston area and on a global level. The spill released 300 million gallons of crude oil into the ocean, contaminated 1,100 miles of coastline, and cost $60 billion in fines. Throughout the 3 months that this spill was happening, I was watching the news and just trying to figure out why these world-renowned engineers were not able to stop something like this. And throughout that process, I looked at the attempts that they made and realized that there was nothing that was really impacting or stopping the spill. And so what I decided to do then was to come up with my own version of a temporary solution that could be implemented during the spill. So this device that you see on your right is the model that I invented. And what it does is it sits on top of the spill, so 2 miles below the surface, and collects the water, oil, and gas being leaked. Through the internal architecture, the heating components, and the sensors located throughout, it separates the oil, water, and gas into separate phases, so homogeneous phases. That way they can be recycled immediately. And that's what's unique about this, is that instead of having to burn the phases once they've reached the surface, you're able to recycle it. The outcome from participating in the science fair process alone helped immensely with internal growth. The project was this internal growth was further developed through other honors, such as being selected as the youngest member of the Forbes 30 Under 30 Energy category in 2016, as well as being appointed as one of 17 United Nations Young Leaders for the Sustainable Development Goals. In these pictures here, you can see that on the left, this was the competition that I'd mentioned earlier, the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. I actually ended up receiving one of the grand awards, which was called the Intel Foundation Young Scientist Award. In the middle, you can see a picture from the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit. And on the right, I gave one of the keynote addresses for World Oceans Day at the General Assembly Hall in the UN. Along these other achievements, I've been able to develop a platform of promoting youth education in the STEM fields. And this is where I had the opportunity to speak at South by Southwest just a couple weeks ago, as well as promote the Smurfs campaign with Demi Lovato and other celebrities. Additionally, I've had a minor planet named after me from the MIT Lincoln Laboratory, and this picture on the left is what they gave me. You can see where my planet is located within the asteroid belt just past Mars. But if we take a moment and just look at this from a big picture standpoint, you can see that all of this happened after I decided to try something that was unfamiliar to me. This is where my challenge for you comes in. Every day, I want you to try something that puts you outside of your comfort zone, something unfamiliar to you, because growth comes from discomfort. Find what you are passionate about and use it as an avenue to make a lasting and impactful difference. You can start small if you have to, but what's more important is that you start now. And if you're ever hesitant or doubtful of your capabilities, remember what Alan Turing once said, and it goes along the lines of, sometimes it's the people who nobody imagines anything of who do the things that nobody can imagine. Thank you for your time.
Nice job. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And I guess I can only dream of the day that I may have a planet named after me. I don't think it's going to happen, but it is a great fantasy. What a tremendous achievement to have your name out there somewhere outside of Mars on some asteroid belt. That's pretty incredible. How many of us in this room are entrepreneurs? Can you just raise your hands, or who's starting up a business or about to or thinking to? So quite a few people here, actually. Many entrepreneurs will tell you that it's just such a roller coaster. There are high highs and low lows. And there's this thing they call the darkest hour, right? There's always the dark hour before you suddenly make this turn, and there's the light. I once, a long time ago, interviewed Jack Ma, and I had asked him about entrepreneurship, and he said, when you think it's so bad and you cannot take it anymore, just hang in there a little bit longer and the light will come. So 3 years later, I'm still wondering, how long does an hour last? Our next speaker is going to address this. And anyone, again, who has done a startup or knows about it, knows to read a book called The Lean Startup. There's another one out there called Traction, another one called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And there are gems and lessons in these books. But our next speaker is actually going to talk about tips in the 3-day startup. Her name is Alexis Taylor, and she's the director of this organization. Please give her a warm welcome.
In a rapidly changing world, entrepreneurial thinking is key to owning the future you want to create. I'm Alexis Taylor, and I'm so honored to be here with the Misk Foundation. The values that they support in helping emerging young leaders with the skills that they need to impact the world are very similar to what I do at 3-Day Startup. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about what I do, why it's important, and also how you can be a part of the entrepreneurial movement happening around the world. So a little bit about me. I am a Midwesterner. I'm from the middle part of the country in the United States, and I grew up with 3 key role models. One is my mom. She's a force of nature in business. My stepmom, who is a social impact entrepreneur in the healthcare space, and my dad, who's a pilot for United Airlines. So from an early age of 5 years old, I was traveling around the world, and I saw from those role models how business can be a force for good, and how whatever you create in your community has a ripple effect across the world. Ever since I was young, I've been engaged in many different entrepreneurial endeavors, and over the past 10 years, I've worked at international startups, a venture capital firm in the Midwest, and then all the way through starting up social impact initiatives of my own and working at 3-Day Startup to help scale our programs around the world for emerging leaders on 6 continents. And I love what I do. And again, it's so similar to what the Misk Foundation supports in activating the potential in emerging leaders around the world. And at 3-Day Startup, we've done this since 2008 at the University of Texas at Austin. And this organization was founded by 2 individuals who had the core philosophy that the best way to learn how to start a company is by actually starting one. And it's the experience of entrepreneurship, of trying something new, taking action, and being an agent of change in your community that allows you to know how to do that best, time and time again, to always have impact throughout your life. Students from around the world took us to these different continents that you see up there. And it's been an honor working with so many youth around the world who have really gravitated towards this idea of entrepreneurial thinking. So from these programs, we've had a lot of alumni do some pretty incredible things. After our program, many students will go on to start ventures. And what you see here is about 130 companies that have been created by our alumni who have raised over $150 million in investor capital worldwide. So out of this program, through focusing on the practice of starting a company, builds those entrepreneurial thinking skills to allow people to actually start a company and a venture of their own. And not only that, but it allows them to have the mindset to be an innovator inside of larger organizations, and as well as lead social impact initiatives in their community. And that's why with all of our programs, we focus on this key piece. to be able to allow these emerging leaders to own their future, not just their own business. We focus primarily on education, similar to the Misk Foundation, and empowering these leaders with the skills and the tool sets they need to go and be, again, agents of change in whatever way they think is most impactful for their communities. So why is this all important? Why have we spread this entrepreneurial movement around the world, and why do so many students gravitate towards this even today? The reason being is because of something that we call the Great Acceleration. And what this means is it's thinking about this world and the accelerated pace of change that we're noticing everywhere because of technological advancement, as well as just the changing needs and wants of people in this world in various communities. And there's a lot of key trends that show that this is true and this is happening around the world, as you already saw in the video from the Misk Foundation as well. But a couple of trends are, if you look at Fortune 500 companies, about a half a decade ago, they used to have the lifespan of about 75 years. That's decreased significantly over the past 50 to about a lifespan of 15 years. Now, these companies aren't vanishing in thin air. What's happening a lot of the time is that they're being acquired. But what this points to is that the world, our economic systems, are changing drastically. And we need to prepare people around the world with the skills and the tool sets to weather those changes. The other thing that Dell notes in 2017, and we've heard this time and time again as years progress, is that 85% of the jobs that we will see in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. So that's another thing we have to think about too, is the needs and the wants of communities around the world are changing. New businesses are being created to help assess and find solutions for those needs. And we need to be able to prepare our youth for the jobs that haven't even been created yet, which is kind of hard to do unless you have things like a good educational system that teach you those 21st century skills that you need to be adaptable and all these other things. But as it shows up here with the World Economic Forum, they noticed, and have been for a while, that our current educational models, the traditional standard that we have around the world, is not keeping up with the skills that we need for our youth and people around the world to succeed. And so that's why the more all of us in our day-to-day lives can think about building these 21st century skills into what we're doing, we'll be able to weather these changes of this rapidly changing world, and also have the skills to make sure that we're always economically independent in whatever we're doing. And some of those skills to focus on are having empathy for individuals, knowing who you're trying to create a solution for and understanding them completely. Looking at some of the problems in the community, how can you identify them and create a solution? And of course, one of the key ones is being very adaptable and noticing that changes are going to be coming up and having a system and a process around being able to weather those changes. So this is why at 3 Day Startup, we love entrepreneurial thinking. And this is what we try to embed in every single participant and the people that work within our global network with our organization. And again, what we do, the way that we help embed entrepreneurial thinking in people, is we don't talk about it, we don't have lectures on it, we don't have books. What we do is we help build a laboratory of sorts for people to practice entrepreneurial principles and build companies. And through trying to build something greater than yourself and serving your community in an entrepreneurial way, through really solving a problem, they're able to build that entrepreneurial thinking mindset that will allow them to be successful throughout their entire lives. So some of the things we emphasize in our programs, and what I highly suggest you all emphasize in your own lives as well as you're trying to be more entrepreneurial, is, of course, if you want to do something, start something. That's the first step, because learning by doing is the way. But a couple other key points is to focus on problem identification. Really define what is the problem that you're trying to solve with whatever initiative you're building. The second piece is doing something that we call customer discovery. So understanding who are you trying to impact and knowing everything about them as much as possible, because that will allow you to build something that's sustainable and truly serves a need in your community for those individuals. The other piece that we focus on too is rapid prototyping. So once you've identified a problem, you know who you're trying to build a solution for, actually build a solution for them. See how they take it, see how they work with that solution. And after you receive feedback from them, then rebuild the solution. And you keep doing that over and over again as you accumulate more customers and you're servicing more people. And then finally, being okay with failing fast. Being okay with knowing that you're not going to get it right the first time, and 80% is okay. If you're impacting the people that you are truly solving a need for, they will be okay with that, and they'll allow you to keep making sure that you're focusing on their needs and wants and creating value in your community. And at the end of the day, for our programs and for entrepreneurial thinking, trying to incorporate it into everything that you're doing everywhere. Malcolm Gladwell talks a lot about accumulating those 10,000 hours for you to become an expert. And that's what I try to do, as well as many other individuals in this entrepreneurship world, is they try to figure out, how can I use this in my job, in building the new initiatives that I have, even in our relationships. One of the participants at our programs actually said entrepreneurial thinking made him a better boyfriend, because he was focused more on the empathy of trying to understand where his girlfriend was coming from, making sure that he was building a relationship that worked for her. So this can be used in many different ways. So what can you do? I've talked with you a little bit about 3-day startup, the need for entrepreneurial thinking. What can you do leaving here? Well, what I would say to that is start here and start now. If you have an idea of an entrepreneurial endeavor that you'd like to pursue, talk with someone about it before you leave here today and figure out what your next steps could be, and actually take action on it, because it's that process of trying to build something greater than yourself that you'll be able to be entrepreneurial and create the future that you want. Thank you so much for your time today, and I really appreciate the Misk Foundation for all their support for young leaders around the world.
طبعا أنا اليوم كنت جاية أتكلم عن تجربتي الخاصة جدا مع MIT، وكيف إن إحنا نقدر إن إحنا نستخدم التقنية الجديدة أو أحدث التقنية في مجال الارتفيشال انتليجنس أو اللي هي الذكاء الاصطناعي في تطوير نظام الصحة عندنا، بحيث إن إحنا نبني مجتمع يكون صحي وقادر على إنه يلبي احتياجات الطب.
أول ما طلعت فوق المنصة كنت شوي حسيت بخوف، لكن تفاعل الجمهور خلاني أحس إني أنا من بين أصحاب.
And continue enhancing this beautiful world you are already building. Let us follow up and continue building this creative economy and doing things that have never been done on this planet. From Riyadh to Jeddah, and yes, to Neom.
أشارك تجربتي مع العالم وأشارك تجربتي مع المجتمع السعودي بأن إحنا قادرين في شتى المجالات أننا ننافس ونبرز طاقاتنا وجهودنا.
When I look at Saudi Arabia, I see potential. Potential for a country with over half its population under the age of 25. Potential for the youth who are looking to grow, learn, and change the world.
A result of a passion of one man, Mohammed bin Salman. His passion has transformed Saudi Arabia. A man of my age, I never thought it would happen in my lifetime. He's a passionate man. And if that man can change a country, imagine what your own passion can make for you. Thank you so much.
Imagine coming to the United States with your family and you don't speak English, and you have potential, and you have ambition, and you want to get ahead, but you don't speak English. It's a major roadblock. You try, you pick yourself up, you reinvent yourself, and you get rejected over and over again. How do you pick yourself up? How do you believe in yourself continuously? How do you persist? And what does it take to succeed and to break through? Our next speaker is going to tell you exactly how he did that. I'd like to introduce Rami Al-Sataran, who's doing his doctoral research at Sam Houston State University, and he says, "I don't have dreams, I have goals."
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. It's such a beautiful night, and I'm very honored and happy that I'm standing in front of you right now and about to share my story with you. I believe my story is worth telling and is worth listening to. So let's get to it. I came to the United States in 2007, just like many Saudi students. I came here with no friends, no family, and of course, a limited amount of money. But thankfully, I had a scholarship, a full scholarship that paid for tuition and fees and paid for my monthly stipend. I got that scholarship from my country, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Being in a different country and being in a new environment was very challenging in the beginning. But my biggest challenge was learning English. You see, I'm a first-generation student, which means none of my parents have a college degree. In fact, my dad only had his high school diploma before he passed away. And my mom didn't even finish elementary school, because at that time, many women quit school to stay home and take care of their families. But that was at a different time. And even though my mom is not educated and she doesn't have any formal degree from any kind, to me, my mom is the best educator I've ever seen and I've ever known. And I'm very thankful for that for her, and I'm very thankful to have her in my life. So when I was in Seattle as an ESL student, I was placed into the basic classes for all sections: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So I knew I had a long way to go through to learn that language and to master it. 3 months after being in Seattle, I decided to take the first TOEFL exam. Well, I did, and I did really bad. You could say I failed it. In fact, in the reading section, I got 0 out of 30. I was telling myself, wow, that's horrible. But you know what? This is the first time I've ever taken the TOEFL exam. It's not a big deal. You'll take it again and you'll do better. 2 months later, I took it again. And guess what? I failed it again. But this time in the reading section, I actually improved. So instead of getting 0 out of 30, I got 1 out of 30. So clearly the TOEFL and I, we were not really good friends. We just didn't click. So I started looking for alternatives. One of my friends told me about the IELTS exam. I started reading about it. I liked what I was reading, and I signed up for it. On that day, while I was taking that exam, I felt really comfortable, very confident, because I was answering many of the questions. But I made a mistake that actually made me fail. So during the listening section, they actually gave us cantrons, and we were supposed to fill in these cantrons. Well, I've never seen a scantron before in my life. So I was filling the answers and taking the notes on the paper itself. When the lady came to get the scantrons from me, I told her, well, I'm not done yet, I need a minute. She said, sorry, we need to take it right now and move on to the next section. I'm not blaming that lady because it was my fault 100%, and I admitted that years ago. So she took my empty blank scantron. I was thinking, what should I do? You know, the whole section was gone. The whole listening section was gone. So I just decided to leave the room. So I got up and was walking away, wanted to hit the door. During that time, the lady yelled at me from very far distance, across the room, with very loud voice. She said, "Excuse me, sir, if you leave that room, you cannot come back again." Her voice still resonates in my head, and I still have goosebumps, still now, whenever I think about that moment. I looked at her. I didn't even say one word. I turned around and I kept on walking. I got out of that room and I wanted to go as far as possible from that building. I was so mad at myself, so disappointed. How can I make a stupid mistake like that? I should have done better. I was crying. I didn't know where to go because I was just disappointed and mad at myself. Suddenly, it started to rain, heavily. So I was soaked in water and I was very, very wet. At that moment, I realized something. I realized everything is going to be okay, because I felt the rain washed all my failures, washed all my mistakes. I smiled and I went home. Months later, I took the test again and I passed it. I got the score that I was looking for, and I applied for different schools, and I got accepted in a couple of them, and I decided to move from Seattle, Washington State to San Antonio here in Texas. And that's where I did my undergraduate degree. So to make my long story short, in the past 11 years here in the United States, I was able to learn English. I was able to get my undergraduate degree in information systems, and I graduated with honors. I was able to get my master's in business administration from Sam Houston State University. 3 weeks after that, after my graduation, I got a job here in Houston, and I worked for an oil and gas company, and I worked for them for 2 years. During that time, I went back to school to do my doctorate because I wanted to get the highest degree that was possible for me. So I was a full-time employee and a part-time student. 2 years after working for National Oil Barco, I left that company and I joined a tech company, totally different industry. And I worked for them for a year and a half. Until last December, I actually decided to leave that job and quit to focus on my doctoral research because I'm working on my dissertation this year. And hopefully by the end of this year, I'll be done with it. So the guy who wasn't able to speak English, the guy who kept on failing in the beginning of his journey, has 2 degrees, and he's working on his 3rd degree right now, and worked in 2 different American companies here in Houston. And he's standing in front of you right now and giving a talk in English. What does that tell you? It tells you dreams do come true if you want them to be. It tells you you can transform your dreams into realities if you have whatever it takes to do that. It might be difficult, it might be challenging, it might take 11 years from your life, but believe me when I say this, it's possible. If I could do it, you too can make it. But I'm not here today only to tell you about my story and about my individual accomplishments. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to deliver a very important message that I feel obligated to deliver. The first part of my message is actually for the leaders in higher education. The leaders in higher education, the leaders of every university and every college here in the United States. International students in general, and Saudi international students specifically, face a lot of challenges during their time in the United States. So they need help and they need support. And I'm not saying only help and support with their academics, but also with their social aspects. So new services and new programs need to be in place to help these students year after year until they graduate. We, as international students, we contributed $39.9 billion into the US economy in the past academic year. And for every 7 international students, 3 jobs are created. So we do bring in a lot of money and we do create jobs. So we are in a very good position to work with these universities to provide more services and more programs. The second part of my message is actually for the Saudi students. Being in a different country and studying abroad is very difficult, and it's very hard, and it's very challenging. And honestly, it should be like that. It should not be easy, because if it was easy, anyone can do it. And if it was easy, it will not be a dream, because it will be something that you do on your daily basis. But it's challenging and it's difficult, and that's the beauty of it. Look, at some point of time, you will fail. I guarantee that. And that's okay. And that's expected. Because failing is a part of the process. And sometimes you need to fail to win. In fact, in many cases, if you're not willing to fail, you're not willing to succeed. But every time you fail, and every time you fall down, make sure you get up and fight again. Fight until you achieve your educational goals, the dreams that you're trying to get. Because once you do that, once you get the degree that you're looking for and you're fighting to get, once you transform all your dreams into realities, a new chapter will begin. Because now you will take the good ideas, you will take your degree, your good experience, and import them from the United States, from this land, and export them in our country, into Saudi Arabia, in our societies. Because that's what we need. We need people like you to move our country even forward. You are the change makers, and I believe in you. We have changed as individuals, and now we are changing as a country. The vision of 2030 is not a vision of only one person. It's the vision for the entire nation. And that's why I don't have dreams anymore. I have goals. My name is Rami Ibrahim Al-Sikran, and that was my story. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for your inspiring and very powerful story. Thank you. You know, the brain does not like uncertainty, right? We like to plan. We like to know exactly what our roadmap in life could look like and what we need to do to get there. We're very structured as human beings and very measured, and we understand this is what needs to happen, and therefore I will do these steps to get there. Well, what would happen if we were a little bit looser about that? If we gave ourselves the permission to have new experiences, to try new things, and not to be so stuck to what we think we should be doing, and here is how we are going to get there. Our next speaker is an architect and an urban designer, but she's going to share with us something very interesting. She's going to share with us what does happen when you choose some different building blocks of your life, and what happens when you put yourself out of your comfort zone and you do explore and you allow a new world to unfold. That's the topic of her talk.
Thank you, Zain. 10 years ago, I had one linear way of looking at my goals, and I used to put them in a list and make sure I tick them all off. But there were those moments when I felt demotivated and unfulfilled, although I was ticking a lot of boxes. And I saw that a lot of people measure how successful they are with only how well they perform in their career and education. But why can't we measure it by asking ourselves how our individuality and unique soul play a role in our success? So things have changed when I decided to slow down and to think about what matters the most to me. And it all started with one question. What is the difference between what I can achieve and what do I want to achieve? And in order to answer this question, I decided to take the biggest challenge I could possibly take at that time, which was outside of my comfort zone and my parents too. So I decided to go to Paris for 3 months to do an internship at an architecture office called Dominique Perrault. It was the first time I was on my own, and I couldn't even speak the language, and it was the first time I live abroad. But I enjoyed experiencing a different lifestyle, and I enjoyed experiencing the smallest things, like going out for lunch with my coworkers, sitting on the grass and appreciating summer, and talking about what is it like to study and work at the same time. But there was that weekend that was mind-cleansing and eye-opening to me, when I decided to take a break and go away to Mont Saint-Michel for a horse riding trail. I met a group of people that I didn't know before, but we all shared the same interest. And I stayed with a lady and her husband at a ranch, and I remember I had to learn some words in French on the spot to communicate with her. And I remember drawing a map of the world to tell her where I'm from and to locate myself geographically. I guess on that weekend, it was meant for me to experience something new, but it was also meant for me to learn how to deal with something that I wasn't prepared for. So after a beautiful 2-day ride of myself, the horses, the beautiful landscape, and the wonderful people that I met, I missed the train, and I got stuck in the countryside of France until the next day. And of course, with my terrible French and with no connection to even use Google Translate, I found it extremely difficult to figure out how to get back to Paris when I had work the next day. But it was that moment when I realized that I can be in control, and I am able to be in control when things do not flow the way I anticipated for, and that there is always a way out, and there is always a way to make the best of our reality. And when I reflect back at this experience, I feel that it was great to work in France, and it was great to meet people from different countries. But what was greater and what was most memorable to me is the confidence, is the strength, and the independence that it built in me, and the new perspectives that it gave me. And also to realize that in order for my mind and my soul to grow and expand, I need to explore, and I need to constantly seek for changes. And that comfortable zone that I defined, from which I learned from, should not be defined anymore. So after I graduated, I worked at Imar Properties for 3 years, and I worked with an amazing, strong, incredible team. So Imar is considered one of the biggest developers in United Arab Emirates and also in the region. But I saw architecture not only as a profession, I saw it as a channel that allows me to see the world in a critical way, and that allows me to situate my role in this world. And those exploration trips gave me a great sense of fulfillment. And also to learn more and to explore more. And it was a way of connecting my profession and this passion of exploring. So I decided to go on a couple of trips because it keeps me going. And one of the trips that touched me the most was my trip to Tanzania, where it really expanded my mind way more. And I realized that that life is so simple and we only need fundamental things to achieve happiness. Between those trips, at some point, I felt that I'm very comfortable with where I am. And I felt that everything that may cross my path or may come is very expected. It took me a while to make a decision and to seek for a bigger change because I was trapped in this comfort zone. And fear was in control. So I decided to lose the fear and seek for a bigger change. And this is when I decided to apply to Columbia University in the city of New York. And I was very happy to be accepted in the urban design program, where exploring cultures and city was part of what we do. And where I got the opportunity to meet classmates and work with them who are from completely different backgrounds that I constantly learn from. Of course, not everything was so easy and smooth. I arrived to New York in a very unexpected condition. It wasn't what I planned for. I had to start my classes only a few hours after I landed. And of course, it was very stressful and it wasn't easy. But because I had constant faith that in order for me to fulfill my purpose, there are some situations that I have to adapt to and other situations that I have to challenge. But it has been the best decisions that I've ever made. We're working with people from different backgrounds and different cultures allowed me to think in a completely different way, to work in a different way, to express my ideas, and to even explore more and go to one of the holiest places in India, which is Varanasi, and to be exposed to a completely different culture and to appreciate it, to collectively come with ideas and visions. And it also taught me how to be very tolerant and accepting to other cultures that are very different than mine. And to consider what is not familiar is an opportunity to see things from a completely different perspective. So by allowing myself to discover what I'm passionate about and what matters to me the most, I allowed new opportunities to unfold and I allowed new plans to take place. I have now plans of taking all these experiences and this knowledge back home to the United Arab Emirates and back to our region and to give back to our community. And this year has also allowed me to realize how much I love being involved in academia, and that considering starting a path in teaching will help me to constantly feed my mind and my soul and give back to a bigger community. So don't be afraid to pause, to rethink about what you're doing, even if it takes you to do the opposite. Discover your talents, nourish them, embrace your unique soul, and a whole new world will unfold to you. Thank you.
I will be speaking today about how women are a source of economic advantage. I'm going to show and demonstrate my research that I've conducted at my school.
اتاحت الفرصة إن أحد يطلع على المسرح في محفل زي كذا، يعني بالعكس جدا حلوة وكويسة، ومنها تعزز العلاقة والشراكة، إنه في شباب كانوا يتكلموا عن تكنولوجيا وأشياء لنا علاقة فيها، فممكن يصير في تعاون لاحقا أو ما بعد، فبالعكس هي فرصة جدا ممتازة.
صراحة كانت تجربة رائعة، وكنت جدا سعيدة إني أتكلم اليوم عن بحثي وعن تشجيع البحوث في السعودية. والجمهور كان رائع والحضور كان رائع، يعني طاقة إيجابية في المكان، وتحس مش كان شعور جدا جميل إنك تشوف طلبة آخرين مبتعثين في أمريكا أو جايين من أماكن ثانية بالإنجازات اللي قاعدين يسوونها.
الشغل اللي سوته مسك جبار جدا، هذا يسمى الببليك بوليسي، خدم المملكة العربية السعودية وخدمنا احنا كسعوديين، فعلا عكسنا صورة جميلة جدا عن المملكة.
Every single person in this room has at one time been rejected. Has there anyone who's never been rejected in this room at all? You want to put your hand up? I didn't think so, because that's part of life. I've been rejected so many times, you know, over and over again. I think it may even surprise you how many times that's occurred. And the one thing over my life of consistent rejection in certain periods that I've learned is that I can't take it personally. That there are actually external forces and other situations that led to that moment where I was rejected. And if I take on board that it was because of me, there was something wrong with me, it was something that I did, then I'm not going to get anywhere. And the only thing I'm going to do is hurt myself. What I tend to do now, if something does not go my way, I say good. I force myself to say good, because then I can turn it into an opportunity. Good, I didn't get that. That leaves me more time to spend with mom and dad. Good, I didn't get that. I just want to walk the dog. Good, I didn't get that. I want to work out more. So I think that that is a theme which many of our speakers are addressing here today, and so will our next speaker. Her name is Nora Al-Swaleh. She's an undergraduate at Texas Southern University, and she is going to talk about finding your possibilities.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing is impossible. The world itself says I am possible. I believe in this quote by Audrey Hepburn, who was not only an actress, but also a UNICEF ambassador. This quote always inspired me and pushes me to do more, especially during my difficult times and difficult moments. In case of facing challenges, it keeps me moving to find solutions and alternatives, and it helps me to see problems as opportunities. However, it was not always able for me to see my difficult times as opportunities. When I was in high school back then, the criteria for Saudi education system for students to enroll in universities was based on the last year of a high school. So what happened to me after years of achieving excellence in school, I graduated with a low GPA. I'm not sure why. Maybe I felt a pressure on me because I need to get a high grade. I thought I was not able to get to any university. I got depressed, and the whole situation disappointed my family. Everyone around me, my family members, my friends, were getting to good universities, except me. So I decided to occupy my time with the beneficial things and educate myself. And I read books for inspired people like Ghazi Qusaybi and Salah al-Rashid. And after that, I was able to lift myself up and start believe that life is full of possibilities. I tried to find a new path to success, and I found the possibility to study at the IPA, Institute of Public Administration. And I appreciate that they approach a different way of education. They emphasize on skills like computer skills and emphasize on teaching English. And also they emphasize on the value of commitment and respecting time. After applying for 3 times, finally I got accepted. Maybe they fed up from seeing my name. But with each rejection, I acknowledge my feeling. I ask myself what I should have to do more to get accepted, and I prepared myself for the next enrollment. So then I got my diploma, led me to work in one of the biggest hospitals in Riyadh, and I was so honored to receive a scholarship to complete my studies here in the United States. And soon, I will be graduating from Texas Southern University with a bachelor's degree in public affairs and minoring in political science. When I moved to Houston, people told me it's a boring city. And they keep complaining about the weather. But for me, I loved it. I found many interesting things about Houston. For example, Houston has a great job market. It's offered you jobs in healthcare, oil and gas, construction. So it will be easy for any student to be a volunteer and get training. And Houston also is the 4th most populous city in the United States, which makes it one of the most diverse cities in this country. And also when you live here, you will notice that Houston has many different churches and temples and mosques. So I thought, beside my academic goals, how can I make the best out of living here in this city? I realized that the diversity allowed me to make friends from all over the world, from different countries. And I went to different churches and temples to educate myself about different religions. Meeting people from different cultures and ask them many questions allow me to grow my global mindset and grow my personality. And it also increased my social and cultural awareness. Now I have more enjoyable things to do in my life. I attend many international festivals and events, and I find it easy to adapt to any new situation. Before that, I never thought that I could have a friend from Colombia or Peru and try their food. So, my advice to you is to be open to your possibilities. To be open to your possibilities that you have and control, and to have to be in control for your emotions and for your thoughts. For example, accepting that what you have planned for a long time, it won't happen. and move forward for another opportunity. You have to be positive and don't limit yourself. Learn new skills and challenge your ideas. It's also good to push yourself to try and get to new experiences and see what other things you are capable to do. Thanks to Misk Foundation for giving me this opportunity, and thank you for listening.
Nice job. Thank you so much, Nora. Our next speaker likes rocks a lot. When he's out there in the field, he's digging through the soil, he's looking for rocks. Even when he goes on these amazing road trips to France, he's looking at rocks. He calls himself the Saudi Max Stenki. His name is Mohammed Abu Al-Rish. He's a graduate at the University of Houston, and I'll let him tell you why he loves rocks.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm a petroleum geologist that works for Saudi Aramco and currently doing my Master of Science at University of Houston, doing my own research. So when I first was asked by the Misk Foundation to give a talk, an inspirational talk, I was thinking, what should I do? So I decided to share my journey, including educational and career with you. And I hope you enjoy it. So I have a question. Who does know that name? Max Steinecke in the room. Anyone have heard of him before? So when I graduated from high school, I said, what should I do? I applied to top-tier universities in Saudi Arabia, including mid school and engineering. So there was one exceptional visit to Aramco Exhibition Center that changed my career. So I said I want to learn more about oil, the main source of income of our country, and about its history. So hopefully now we're diversifying our portfolio. So the history of oil, when it was discovered? It was discovered in 1938 with 6 unsuccessful attempts. What made that successful attempt is reality, is persistence and optimistic ambition by a great guy named Max Steinecke. This guy used to be the chief exploration geologist of Oil California at the time, responsible for operational drilling in the kingdom. He disobeyed his officials from Oil California, and he was influenced by his drillers to drill deeper until we flowed and had that successful well, which called the Prosperity Well, the Man Well number 7. Max Steinecke believed in himself and loved what he did and influenced others. Another historical figure is Khamis bin Ramthan. Does anyone know this guy in the room? Khamis bin Ramthan, believe it or not, he's a self-learned geologist by himself. He's one of the most legendary figures in the history of oil discovery in our country. He was totally with no any degree. By the testimony of Max Steinecke, he even prevailed over some of the American expats at the time. And as a way of appreciation by our Saudi government, Khamis bin Ramthan was a name of a field called Ramthan was given after Khamis bin Ramthan. And it's the only field in the kingdom that's named after a real person. Additionally, in recent years, Saudi Aramco have named one of the big, gigantic oil ships after Ramthan, and it's a great oil carrier that has his name. Imagine all that made just because those people were passionate about what they do. So, learning all that, learning about the discovery of our, about the history of oil, I decided to join Aramco. So I went through a program that was prepped for a whole year in that zone, and I was motivated also with other motivational figures, which are relatively more recent. So His Excellency Mr. Ali Naimi, ex-CEO of Aramco and ex-oil minister at the time, he was a parcel boy at Aramco. And believe it or not, his ambition about what he loves to do pushed him all the way up the ladder. He became on the top of the pyramid on one of the most influential ministries in the world. Additionally, Mr. Khalid al-Faleh is one of the, our current Minister of Oil and Petroleum, is one of the most influential figures in the oil and field and gas industry. So learning those stories and deciding to join those guys, I said to myself, I want to be a geologist too. I want to give an impact to the world and to my country too. So I went here to the United States and I acquired my degree in petroleum geology. So I traveled all over cities, all over basins in the United States, including beautiful Texas, and including Oklahoma, California, Montana, and New Mexico, and others. I was competing with my professional colleagues and world-class professors. I gained so much experience from them. I still have connections with some of them until today. They're working in many oil companies across the globe. After gaining my bachelor degree, I said I want to go back and push the wheel of prosperity into my country. So I worked in teams in the kingdom with my other Saudi fellows, and it was beautiful learning about the office work and also joining other field trips in the actual field, looking at the rocks, the reservoir where oil is captivated in real life, in person, and working with great professionals from the world, and passing that knowledge to us was such a great advantage we had. Working with great scientists, those who were willing to have those knowledge management sharing, two ways. It was great to pass that knowledge to our young Saudi generation. It was beautiful there. This is how can you see beautiful areas in Saudi Arabia. The only thing to be truly satisfied about is to do what is you believe is a great work. And the only way to do a great work is to love what you do. Last but not least, optimistic ambition. You have to have that optimistic ambition. Don't say you can't. Yes, you can. Delete that T at the end of can't. All of us can do it. As I'm quoting here His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman when he said, the sky is the limit for our people. And yes, the sky is the limit for our people. Yes, Your Royal Highness, behind we'll be accomplishing our vision of 2030 with all of you. Thank you all for listening. This was Mohammed Al-Wadish.
Saudi Arabia can and should be a global leader in clean energy.
If we can do it, if I can do it,
I invite each one of you to join us.
The question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
We can make food without any farmer.
شاركت قصتي على المسرح في مسك بوث القصة حقت البزنس سايد والبيرسونال ستوري وكيف انه حاجة صعبة جدا والناس في البداية كلها تتحداك وتضع العراقيل في طريقك إلى أن تصل النجاح.
فعالية جدا رائعة تجلب الانتباه ليس فقط للمجتمع الأمريكي للنشاطات الشباب السعودي في أمريكا، لكن أيضا تجلب الشباب السعودي مع بعض في نفس المناطق، وأرى أن هذه مبادرة جدا رائعة وتشكر عليها مسك.
I think these events in the Misk Foundation and Saudi Arabia really shows a great image of what the youth is in the region. That we're really working on the cutting edge and that we're going to be competitive with the rest of the world and even surpass some of the other regions in the world.
I
I think that what we're doing is a part of that because there are a lot of untapped geniuses, frankly, out there in the world who don't get the chance to be a part of knowledge because of the circumstances of their birth, that we would like to make a part of it.
I'm here to talk about my work on next-generation brain-machine interfaces. At Stanford, we're working on creating next-generation devices to treat neurological diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Our last speaker, Mohammed the geologist, didn't tell you one thing. He's actually defending his thesis next week, and instead of studying and polishing it up tonight, he wanted to be here, and he wanted to share his story with us. So I hope we can all wish him good luck and keep up the fantastic work. Best of luck. That brings us to our next speaker, who will be addressing an interesting topic that the world often talks about, misunderstands, and misrepresents. We often see negative stereotypes about Islam in the news, about Muslims in the news. Many people think that Muslims are just not productive people. Well, someone came up with the idea to create a website called theproductivemuslim.com, because now it's true. Please welcome Mohammed Faris, the founder and CEO of that site, who's actually going to be talking about the missing soul of productivity. Please welcome him.
Okay. Bismillah. In 1976, a man by the name of Shakur Abu Ghazala had a dream of bringing good quality fried chicken to the city of Jeddah. And he started a small restaurant called Broast Restaurant. Unfortunately for him, 2 years later he passed away when he lost the battle to cancer. But his children took on that dream, and they built one of the most beloved fried chicken brands in the Saudi Arabian country. In fact, if you're on a Saudi Arabian flight from sort of Jeddah to Houston, somebody's trying to smuggle al-Bake into the US, so just trust me on that one. But this wild success of al-Bake, I was always obsessed with. I mean, you go any time of the day, and it's jam-packed. In fact, it puts Carl Sandals KFC to shame. And I was like, what is about al-Bake? Could it be the recipe, the positioning, the pricing? Like, what is about al-Bake? The garlic sauce? I mean, what is al-Bake that everyone's obsessed about? And then I heard a story about the founder himself, Mr. Shakur Abu Ghazala, who, when he started his restaurant, he gave 1 riyal to charity for every fried chicken he sold. And I was wondering, that does not make any business sense. Like, why would you do that? I mean, yeah, fine, give charity, but as part of his business strategy, that he is giving 1 riyal to charity for every fried chicken he sold, like, what was that about? He was trying to tap into something, a spiritual, powerful lesson that we sometimes forget about, and that is called barakah. I've been obsessed about this concept for the past 10 years because I'm a productivity guy. I love to learn how to get more things done, how to get more done with less. And the way I understand productivity is that productivity is all about how much energy you have, times how much focus you have, times how much time you have. So imagine trying to write a book, trying to start a business. You need to put energy, focus, and time, and you achieve a certain output. But then this idea of barakah comes on. And it almost seems this barakah is like this multiply effect. It multiplies your energy, it multiplies your focus, it multiplies your time, and makes you achieve things beyond your expectations. So I'm like, I need to study this. I need to know, what is this about? So I started looking, what is barakah? What is this definition? And is this something we can apply in our modern lives? Is this something we apply in our businesses, our families, Is it real? Is it something that we can attract? So found the barakah, the way it is defined is that it is the attachment of divine goodness to a thing. So that if it occurs something little, it increases it. And if it occurs something that is abundant, it goes in further. So in English, barakah is more with less. I'm like, great. That sounds like something I need to know as a productivity guy. But why is barakah important? How is it relevant to us? How do we ensure to build businesses that are based on barakah, to achieve success with barakah, to really infuse this concept, this age-old concept into our lives and truly see the power of barakah, the missing soul of productivity? People ask me, well, where do you get barakah? Do you like order from Amazon Prime? Like, where do you get it from? Not quite. You need three things to have barakah in your life. You need the right mindset, values, and rituals. And I'm going to share 3 stories with each one of these to give an understanding how this barakah can infuse in the work you do. Let's start with mindset, the abundance mindset. If you ever go to any old bazaar, any old souk, whether in Turkey, Cairo, Jeddah, anywhere in the world, in mostly Muslim world, you'll notice something interesting. You'll notice this souk where there's like 50 shops saying the exact same thing. Now, any business consultant will tell you, if you're trying to beat competition, go somewhere where they're not there. But they're setting shop right next to each other because they believe as merchants that in the power of barakah, in the power that collectively there's enough for everybody. In fact, some of them would close their shops early if they had enough for the day. Say, hey, go buy from my brother, don't buy from me. That's an abundance mindset. How much we need that in the business world today, an abundance mindset. The second, the value of honesty. My mom used to tell me when I grew up in Jeddah that, the gold souk, if you go to the gold souk in Jeddah, when it's prayer time, the shopkeepers used to just put a curtain, a cloth in front of the gold products and just go and pray. And I'm like, no one stole? Like, nope, no one stole. The value of honesty and how much that brings barakah, that multiply effect, how much we need it today. Today, when it comes to dishonesty in business and how many, one of the world's the organizational scandals happen because of lack of honesty. Barakah also comes from rituals. All of you guys, those who live in Jeddah know this famous jar. This jar is the source of happiness. It serves the most famous breakfast you can ever have in Jeddah, which is fool, which is a special broad bean dish. And it's a very cheap, very inexpensive dish, and people love to eat it. And sometimes, if you go to these shops, and you go to the shopkeeper, and he says, you give a pot to fill up with this breakfast dish, he would ask you how much. And sometimes someone would say, Bis-salah an-nabi. I'll give you as much as the prayer of the Prophet. And the man will understand that this person is poor, and he'll fill up his pot and give him to take it home. How much we need that today in our businesses, in our families, this value of giving, value of ritual. So mindset, values, and rituals, these 3 pillars, when you adopt them, it brings barakah. But there is also a missing sauce, a secret ingredient, and that is sincerity. You gotta have the right mindset with sincerity. You gotta have the right values with sincerity. It's not about just putting a CSR for your company. You gotta really mean it. It's not just about saying, I'm doing good, but you have to be sincere in what you're trying to achieve. And these 3 together, with sincerity, is what my scholars who told me that it's the source of success. Having sincere intentions and working hard, that's the source of success. When you attract barakah through the mindset, the values, the rituals you do, the outcome is beyond your expectations. Because modern productivity is not obsessed about maximizing output. But barakah is about maximizing the impact of that output. When Shakur Abu Ghazala started his restaurant, never did he imagine that 20 years later, the government of Saudi Arabia would give Al-Baik a contract to serve Al-Baik in the holiest sites on the holiest days of Hajj to millions of pilgrims. That's the power of barakah. I wish you all a life full of barakah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. Thank you for making us look at the world and our lives and our businesses in such a different way and through the lens of your own hard work and your own analysis. You know, we always hear about IQ and your intellectual capacity. And for many years, we've heard people talk about that's important, but what about emotional intelligence? So we've talked about that as a society for a number of years, and the ability to understand and relate and emote to people on a different level than just simply what they're communicating. But I think perhaps Misk should coin a new phrase based on this talk, or the speaker can, and perhaps we call it spiritual intelligence, because I think that is something that is part of the DNA of who we are and what we represent. So with that, we have intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence all encompassed within our final speaker. His name is Mohammed Khalif. He's at the University of Houston, and he really wants to tell you why it's so important to be involved always. Please welcome him.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, it's really cool to be here. I want to first ask you to imagine. Imagine two students. Imagine two students got accepted at the scholarship program. Imagine both admitted at the same college. Imagine both admitted at the same college. Imagine if the first student, he is curious, he wants to learn, he wants to get involved, he wants to be active in the community. And imagine the second student, he focused on school, but he didn't have any intention. He did not have any intention to volunteer, to participate, to be active. Imagine you are the person in charge of hiring in your company. You got both resumes in front of you. Which one you gonna choose? I think we already know the answer. Involvement matter. You know, one time I was at Starbucks. There was a lady sitting next to me. She was interviewing people. After she finished, I asked her, "Excuse me, what is this interview for?" She said, "This is for Harvard admission." I said, "Oh, so what are the criteria you're looking for in the students?" She said, "Everything is important, but the most important thing is that you participate. The more you're active with the university and the community, you have higher chances to get accepted." When I started, I used not to have a lot of experience in public speaking, and I used to be introvert. I was hesitant and reluctant with others. In the beginning, it was hard for me to apply for jobs. I hardly got a job at McDonald's. However, when I got a job at McDonald's, I start to learn. I learned how to communicate with people. I start seeing people. I worked there as a customer service. So I used to meet maybe, I don't know, 100 of people per day. It helped me to learn how to be, it helped me to learn how to be involved with people, how to work in a team. After that, I felt that I need to be more involved, so I get more experience and I get better jobs. For that, my first involvement was with the Model Arab League, which I'm supposed to be there. I have a competition, and I was supposed to be there, but I'm here for the Misk Talk. The Model Arab League helped me to learn how to negotiate, helped me to learn about different countries, different foreign policy. I'll tell you one story. I had to represent, one time they assigned me to represent the Syrian regime. You know, I'm Saudi. It's really hard to represent the Syrian regime. We have really different point of view, but you know, I said, let me have an open mind. Let me go search, and after I searched, after I looked into the foreign policy, and I asked people. At the end, when I went to the council in the competition, they awarded me as the best delegate. Another thing, maybe most of you here are familiar with the Saudis in Houston. Yes, I'm currently the president of Saudis in Houston since 2016. The Saudis in Houston organization, it's helped us to show the people who are the Saudis. When my team and I organize events, all Americans see who we are. It helps us also, it helps us in developing our leadership skills. While I'm president, I developed a lot of things. I went to many public speaking. I went and I participated in many events, and I got involved with many community. It helped me to meet many people. This is one of the things, is that the culture events, this is the public speaking, as I said. Another thing, this is Sylvester Turner. He ran for mayor in 2016, I think, and I had the opportunity to volunteer with him. I had the opportunity to volunteer with Sylvester Turner, and it gave me the opportunity to intern in his office. I worked 6 months in the Office of Trade and International Affairs. During this time, I learned about protocol, I learned about diplomacy. I connected what I learned in class with the actual profession and with what I want to do. One cool thing's happened to me once when I left working. I was at the last Saudi National Day. The mayors came, and I didn't know that he remembered me. He came to me and said, "Hey, young man, you used to work for me, right?" And I said, "Yes, it really was cool." Second thing is Ted Cruz. I said, you know, when I worked for the mayor campaign, I said, let me move it from mayor to presidential campaign. So I said, let me choose Ted Cruz. Why? Because I like the way he speaks. I think he is really passionate, charismatic, and if you have seen his first speech when he declared he's running for president, he used imagine, and I used that in the beginning. Yeah. So it influenced me a lot. It's helped me to shape my leadership. And he did not win, but also she did not win either. So, question that many people ask: how to get involved? Simply, you just need to follow your passion. See what you like. And try to find events close to you, in your community. See organization that will help you promote your experience. And then you will be able to lead and be successful in your professional life. I think we are all, as Saudis, we should get involved. We should learn to get involved, because with that way we will eradicate and eliminate any stereotypes against our culture and against our country and against our religion. So, what do you think? Are you going to get involved? Thank you very much.
تفاعل كبير من الساعات الأولى اللي بدأ فيها الإيفنت، حضور كبير جدا مع إنه في ثلوج وفي عاصفة ثلجية في الخارج.
الفعالية هذه توفر لي مجال إني أشارك فيه الأمور اللي تعلمتها، الأمور اللي فعلا أحس إني أبغى الناس تسمع عنها وتعرف عنها أكثر.
مسك خلال السنتين بس الأخيرة اللي فاتت استطاعت أنها تجعل منتدياتها مهمة جدا، مهمة لأنها تجمع الناس، تبين للناس وش هي السعودية.
أنا حتكلم اليوم عن البيس والتولرنس اللي هو التعايش والسلام. كيف ممكن نحقق هذا الشيء؟ إيش مشاكلنا اللي احنا قاعدين نعانيها الآن؟
المختلف الآن هنا اليوم أنه المنتدى السعودي برعاية سعودية وطنية، وهو للعالم أنهم يشوفون وش عندنا هي السعودية.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard some very important and powerful messages this evening. And we've now come to the end of this version of Misk Talk. Please give a warm round of applause to all our speakers who really spent some quality time with us and shared their personal journeys with us. You know, it's not easy standing up here and deconstructing your life in front of an audience. So thank you so much to all the speakers once again. They are the ones that are building bridges across civilizations. They're enhancing and enriching cultural understanding, and they are really committed to healing the scars of the past and seeking to strengthen ties in the future. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your dreams and your aspirations. Good night.